Welcome viewers, Dr. JWAU. Australians are told climate change demands urgent action, renewable energy demands enormous investment, and global climate leadership demands still more taxpayer money. Now, another 20 million is reportedly being spent on a climate gathering in Fiji, but listen carefully to how that spending is defended, because this exchange exposes the mechanism critics call the climate and renewable energy scam. When asked whether taxpayers are getting value for money, the government doesn't explain the $20 million. Instead, Australians are warned about natural disasters, farmers, erosion, children and grandchildren. And the argument becomes almost impossible to challenge. Climate catastrophe is the threat, renewable transmission and transition is presented as the solution, and expenditure made in its name becomes moral necessity. But that's precisely where scrutiny should begin. Whether climate change presents serious risks is separate from whether every renewable policy, subsidiary, conference or government expenditure is effective, affordable or justified. If questioning the price is treated as questioning climate change itself, the policy escapes the normal test Australians should demand of government. What did we pay? What did we receive? And what did it actually work? Well, everybody's got differing opinions on this. I think it's a scam, given that the rest of the world is moving forward with coal-fired and nuclear, particularly China. We present 1% of carbon emissions, which doesn't even hit the graph. The cost of this, the invasion of farms, the intrusions, it's not adding up. You make your own decisions, but let's see what happens here.
Bad, thank you. Aussie taxpayers will foot the $20 million bill for a global climate conference that isn't even taking place in Australia. Energy Minister Chris Bowen has agreed to cover the costs for this year's United Nations Climate Pre-Summit in Fiji, where more than $17 million will be spent on event management. $2 million will cover broadcasting services so the meeting can be seen around the world, and another $2 million for resort accommodation. Mr Bowen has invited world leaders from the US, China, France, Japan and the UK to attend. So far, none of them are coming. Let's bring in Housing Minister Claire O'Neill and Shadow Attorney General Michaelia Cash. Morning to you. Claire, can you justify spending about $20 million on this event?
Good morning, Nat. Good morning, Michaelia. This conference is about Australia playing a leadership role in determining the world's climate future, literally shaping the question of the kind of Australia that my children are going to grow up in. Whether we like it or not, these agreements will help determine things like how frequent and serious natural disasters are in our country, the livelihood of Australian farmers, the extent of erosion that we see around our country. Australia is one of the world's, the nations in the world that's got the most to lose if climate change goes according to where we're the trajectory we're on at the moment. But we've got a lot to gain too if the world does the right thing and acts. So we have an enormous stake in what happens at these conversations.
I don't know if you noticed, but at the beginning, the world leaders aren't even interested. They're not coming. I'll tell you why, because they know it's a scam. Now, yeah, there are, right now in Europe, they're having a very hot summer. But is that climate change? Well, it is for the alarmists, but if you look at the science, there's two sides to the science. And again, it's no different to COVID. You're going to get the truths and the falsities, but the world leaders aren't interested in this. They're not going to black out their countries. It's costing trillions. You've been lied to.
And we should be really proud that Australia is playing a leadership role in trying to guide the world onto a better path here.
Is it value for money for Australian taxpayers, 20 mil?
Yeah, look, again, Nat, just, reminding viewers at home how critical this is to our nation's future and the kind of life and livelihood that our children and grandchildren are going to inherit here. We're literally determining the future of our climate, how many natural disasters we have, how frequent and serious they are, how we support our agriculture and our farming industries in Australia. So many questions will determine what happens in these to our climate future. and that does get decided in these agreements. So I understand people look at these dollars and it feels like a lot of money, and I really respect and appreciate that, but these are critically important conversations, and we do need Australia to be at the front of the discussion and leading the world onto a better path here.
Michaelia, we do have to look to the future. Is this just the price we have to pay?
You actually can't make this up, Nat. And Claire, the one thing you are right on, it is a lot of money. What you don't seem to understand, though, Claire, is it's taxpayers' money. Now, you actually can't make this up. Luxury resorts, luxury islands, event planners, Chris Bowen spending taxpayers' hard-earned money. It is an absolute disgrace, quite frankly, all why Australians are doing it tough because of the policy decisions of Chris Bowen. I mean, Australians...
Just let me ask you, viewers, are you doing it tough, or are you one of the lucky ones? Because the people that are noticing all of this are the ones that are doing it tough.
Are just sick and tired of the Labor government splashing around their hard-earned money while they struggle to pay their power bills, Nat, while they struggle to pay their mortgage, while they're cutting back at the supermarket. Claire, perhaps your government might like to concentrate on its own priorities here at home. Do you remember that promise? If we're elected, we'll lower your power bill by $275. How is that going? They have an ideological obsession when it comes to energy at the expense of the Australian people. So how about we remember where this money comes from, the Australian taxpayer. Let's focus on getting energy costs down for the Australian taxpayer, and that is at the heart of the Coalition's plan. Scrap net zero, get rid of Labor's carbon taxes, and ensure that the Australian people have affordable, reliable energy, not luxury hotels, resort islands and
Claire,
event planners, all using their own hard-earned money.
Claire,
what
I
a
think
joke.
about $2 million is going to be sent to broadcast this around the world. Most of the world leaders can't come. Could we have done this on Zoom?
Well, Nat, no. And I understand it's in Michaelia's political interest to dial this down and make it look like...
Now, Michaelia Cash has just been accused of saying what she said out of the pretense of political interest. I can assure you it's not. Let me ask you, viewers, are you struggling with the cost of living? Are you struggling with your taxes? Are you struggling with your electricity bills, etc.? Have you noticed how expensive shopping has got? Now, if you're happy for your third of your wage to go into these politicians running around Fiji, I got friends at a bricklayer friend that knows a lot about Fiji, actually. It's a nice place, but are you happy to pay for them to go over there and spruik about all this when the primary players aren't even turning up? I'm not.
Climate change isn't an important matter for the country.
Claire, it's actually in the taxpayers'
But that's just totally wrong.
For me to look
what
after
I'd say
their money.
really respectfully to Michaelia is we have every piece of evidence we could want to show us that one of the reasons we've got issues with energy as a country is because the Liberals and the Nationals spent 9 years with their heads in the sand, many of them denying that climate change is even...
Viewers, I just want to say that climate change has got nothing to do with energy supply. That's how far out all this is. Now, we've got the cleanest coal in the world. I don't know if you've ever seen one of those coal carriages. Some of you Central Coast people here might. They come out of the coal mines through Muswellbrook and that. They're $16,000 to $20,000 a carriage for that coal. China's buying most of it. They're moving forward with their power supply. You know, we're heading into a situation that could be relative to blackouts. They've shut down all as far as they can except for 2 power stations, and they're working on that. They haven't got the renewable energy infrastructure in place, not even 1%. So aren't you, as a person with some reasonable intelligence, saying to yourself, if they shut down the main sources of power, how are they going to supply power running runoff, apparently, windmills and solar farms? The bad news is, viewers, they're not. But they're not telling you this. What this is, if you look behind the scenes, is the big companies that are creating all this junk because they don't know what to do with it when it breaks. They've found out now that the windmills have got all sorts of material in them that is not plant climate friendly at all. And I'm not trying to criticise it. All I'm trying to say is it's blatantly clear that it's not economically feasible and it's not going to produce the power needed to run the country. As I said, if you're happy to ship parliamentarians all over the world to these climate summits, keep doing what you're doing and keep paying for it. But I hate it. I don't want to do it.
Even happening when we can actually see it around us already. Now, whether we like it or not, these global agreements will help determine the kind of country that my children and grandchildren are going to grow up in. That is an incredibly important thing. And frankly, it would be irresponsible for Australia not to step up and take a leadership.
I agree with Michaelia Cash. The world leaders have said no. She's worried about her children and grandchildren. Viewers, we had a big discussion yesterday about, I bought my first house, I live on the Central Coast, New South Wales, Australia. I bought my first house for $34,000. That same house is worth now $1.8 million. Our concern is how are our children and grandchildren going to afford to have somewhere to live? The average rent cost now is $850 a week. I'm a tradesman and I wouldn't be able to pay that.
Role here. Again, Nat, just remember that our country has the most to lose amongst countries around the world. We are one of the countries with the most to lose.
That's a lie. We've got nothing to lose. What we're losing is our reliable power sources. They've taken away all the industry. When didn't an alarm go off when Holden shut? Like football, meat pies, kangaroos, and apparently Holden cars. I know some of you don't like Holden, but when that shut, that was the big red flag.
To lose if the world does nothing to act on climate, but the most to gain if we do the right thing and act. It is absolutely in our national interest to lead this conversation globally, and that's what we're doing.
Okay, I think we might move on to something else. We both had our say on that one. Moving on, the coalition has
only a true socialist could say what just came out of Claire's mouth. Luxury hotels, resort islands, you've got to be kidding me, and event planners.
Okay.
And
you
think
that's absolutely made my day.
Only a socialist
to be called a socialist by Michaelia.
Well, there you go. It's all socialism. We know that, don't we? Viewers, the deeper controversy, the alleged scam, isn't simply the existence of climate change. It's the possibility that climate fear can become a political bank check. Climate fear can become a political bank check and used to justify renewable policies and spending before their costs and results are properly interrogated. And when 20 million can be defended without clearly explaining its measurable return, Australians should be asking where climate policy ends and unquestionable expenditure begins. That's a big thing, viewers. We're being scammed. While you're struggling to do your shopping, these people are running around the world, business class, high luxury resorts. If you're for that, good luck to you, because I'm not. That's why I've done this episode, The Big Scam.